Hey everybody, Gurmy's Coaster Yard here, and today we are going to be building a realistic restaurant in Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 in our Germanator Studios park. So, the first part in building a restaurant or a realistic restaurant is to lay down the path interior, just so you sort of know what shape you want the inside to take place. Now, I'm not going to be doing a fully detailed interior because that's rather difficult to do in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but we will have a complete interior, um, and one that feels realistic or feasible for what it's worth. So you can see I'm extending the path a little bit to the left and right. That way we can have a seating area. I'm going to change this in a little bit, and you'll see how I do it. Um, and you'll notice I left a gap between the main the main floor area and the main pathway, and you'll see what I do with this in a moment. Um, but it's helpful to have a space between those two so you can have some foliage or something natural to help break up the space between the path and the restaurant so it doesn't just feel like a wall right there. And I think it helps with the scenery, and you'll see this towards the end as well. Right now, I'm building some kitchen space, and you can see that I sort of put a little cooler area in there. That's just something I do, but you definitely don't have to do completed interiors where the guests can't see and where you can't see. But sometimes I just do that for fun. Um, and you'll notice the kitchen area, quote unquote area, doesn't have an actual use. But when you look at the completed building from the outside, having that extension behind the restaurant helps to sell the illusion that that's what it is. And here you can see that I am changing up the seating. Um, what I'm doing here is making it look more like booth seating in a restaurant, especially right near those windows. When you look from the outside, it'll kind of look like a booth with the benches facing towards each other, like in a classic diner situation. And you'll notice right here, I did it over to the right. I bring up that path a little bit and place an individual path piece, and then that allows me to place benches on either side of it and sink it back down, so that way you can have two benches back to back. If you can't do this otherwise, but that helps you. So if you have two path pieces that are right next to each other, the edge between those two pieces you can't place anything on if the paths are linked. So this is just a building tip to help you fit more benches in a certain amount of area, and it also really fits in with the aesthetic, especially with like the diner situation. And now I'm just bringing this back wall up so there will be a little more height to it. And you notice I don't bring it up in the kitchen, since that area would have a lower ceiling anyway. I just do it in the main area to make it feel more open. And right here I'm putting the 1/2 roof piece on the front. That's just to sort of make it look like there's could be a full roof, and just makes the facade of the building look nicer, and less jagged. But along the back you can see I'm putting the roof edges from the office wall set. And eventually I will color that trim blue because the trim is visible from the pathways. That way the restaurant will look nicer. And I'm putting in some air conditioning units. And again, these are things that the guests don't see and that they have no function within the game, but they help to make it look more realistic. And here you can see that I put in a main doorway. Now those can't open and shut, but the guests can walk through them because of the M. Brooks cheat code. And I put some along the edges because I figure this area will hold lots of people. So from a design standpoint, you want to have multiple exits for emergency egress purposes if there were to be a fire or something. And just having more than one entrance to a building like this helps to avoid what we call bottlenecking, where lots of guests sort of get piled up and are trying to squeeze through one spot, and it just keeps things from being too congested. And here I'm setting the stalls. I had a burger stall, a French fry stall, and a drink stall. So I'm going with the sort of diner feel, um, and I'm checking all those boxes there, so all the items will have everything on them, and that's just how I sort of justify calling it a gourmet location. So you can see I'm calling it the Gourmet Cafe. I thought it sounded, I thought it rolled off the tongue. Um, and here you can see where I'm changing the color of that trim, but you notice I don't color the back trim because it won't be visible from the guest perspective, or it won't really not fully visible. And you'll see what I do with that in a little bit too. And here I'm just putting in some hedge pieces to line the paths. And I'm coloring the ground with the irregular paving. This sort of matches the texture of the pathways, and this creates a definitive border between the dirt area I'm painting and the path. That way the dirt doesn't look somewhat green, it'll be the complete and full texture of the dirt. And I'll go through and do that along all the pathways too eventually. And you can see I'm putting the trees and the green bushes in there, and you can see what I meant now about having a natural border between the path and the building and not just sort of a sharp edge. And it just helps everything sort of flow together from one to the other. And behind that, I'm putting a pine wood fence, and that just helps finish off the border and finish off the behind the scenes area from the main area. Right here, I just decided to put an exit door on the back side of the admissions building, now that we have an access path on the back side of it. And here I'm putting a sign in. The final name I decided was Gurmy's Gourmet Cafe. You saw it roll across there. And here we're finishing the back side of the building. I decided that because this is facing another part of the park, I wanted it to blend in more. So I'm adjusting it to a combination. It's sort of halfway between an earth tone and a pastel green. This in the game is about as close as you can get to what the industry, or more specifically the Disney theme parks, call go away green. And this shade is sort of a bland green color that really blends in and goes unnoticed when you have something that you don't want to be completely visible. So with all the vibrant colors around the theme park, if you paint something this go away green color, it kind of really does make it go away. It draws the focus away from that and brings the focus back to everything around it. And it's a really cool sort of visual trick that theme parks use. Even though it was sort of developed by Disney, it's definitely been used throughout the industry. And it is an effective technique. So I painted the backside that color just to sort of make it more realistic, and since you'll be able to possibly see that from elsewhere in the park, it'll help it go away. So that's everything I have for this episode. I hope these tips and tricks were helpful for you. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. See you later.